Greetings, my name is Chlorastoclus. As you can see, I'm an S-rated player in the top 100, and in this video, I'm going to take you through my weapons tier list for Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon patch 1.08. Not all that much has changed since my last tier list video, but I've learned a lot more about the game, and I'd like to update my tier list and be a little bit more critical this time. Before we get into the tier list, I have a quick announcement to make. GenKumon is hosting a random parts tournament on April 1st. You have to join his Discord and have all of the parts unlocked, but I would love it if you would participate. It'd be really cool to see more people come out, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I wrote the randomizer for the event, so I'm super excited. I love playing these kind of silly events, and I really like randomness, like random parts, random maps, this kind of thing. So I'd love it if lots of people come by, play in the event, and get to experience all the content in the game, not just the content that's meta that's going to come up in this tier list. Now, without further ado, let's get into the tier list. As I said before, I'm going to be a bit more critical in this tier list than I have been in my past tier lists. So some of these are going to be very different than what I said before, either because I learned something or because I'm being more critical. I'll try to differentiate when I'm doing one or the other, but for the most part, I'm just going to try and go through these as quickly as I can so that I don't waste too much of your time. All right, we're going to start off with nothing. Equipping nothing to your AC is not good. It never has been. It's not going to be. Always at least equip a Bay weapon so you can purge it. It's just better that way. Next, we're going to kicks. Biped kicks are great. They're really annoying. They interrupt movement, and they have a good range, and they are fast. So I'm putting them in A tier. RJ kicks. RJ kicks are also quite good. I'm also putting them in A tier. They're a little bit harder than biped kicks, and they're a lot more punishable, but they're also a lot more effective when they land, and I've seen players use these to great effect, usually over high latency, but they're still pretty good. If you have high latency, just equip RJ legs, you'll probably crush people. Quad. I'm going to say that quad kicks are actually significantly worse than both biped and RJ kicks. The range is just a bit shorter than you want it to be, and generally you're either playing a lamb, so you're very light and your kick doesn't do very much and you don't want to be kicking in the first place, or you're too heavy for this to actually matter that you even have a kick. So I'm leaving this in B tier. Tank. Tank kicks are better than biped kicks and RJ kicks. Also, you can use them as a movement tool. It's really, really appalling. They probably shouldn't change it. Tanks are pretty underpowered in the first place, so tank kicks are quite good. Punching. So this is going to be new. Punching is going into S tier. There are a lot of punching combos now on ladder, and they're really good. It's just kind of another way of performing Touch of Death, but it's sort of the least expensive way of performing Touch of Death because you can equip a good weapon, drop it, and do a punch combo. This is a lot more popular than it used to be, and it's really, really, it's like kind of toxic. I don't really enjoy playing against it, but it's very good. So I'm going to put punches in S tier. Rensetsu RF. This is a rifle. As a general rule, rifles aren't amazing. I'm going to start putting these in B tier. It does good, consistent damage, but good, consistent damage isn't really enough to get you through a match in the higher levels of play these days. So this is not going to do better than B tier, and most weapons that do something similar to this aren't either, even if they're good weapons. Curtis. I think this is kind of sleeper. I'm still going to put it below the RF, but I think that the Curtis has a niche that hasn't really been fulfilled yet. I think as people continue to learn and explore different parts of the game that they haven't explored before, at some point somebody will come up with a Curtis build that's good. But that doesn't exist yet, so maybe it'll be you. Go and try the Curtis, lose a bunch of games, and then play something good that I put in S tier. Harris. The Harris is good. It's going to be right up there with the Rensetsu RF. I don't know whether it's better or worse. I'm going to say it's slightly worse. I usually see the RF do better than the Harris, but I think the Harris is very good as far as rifles are concerned. Turner. The Turner is not good. I'm not going to pretend it's good. It's not worth the fire rate doesn't really get you anything. Like, maybe it's okay for stagger maintenance, but there's probably a better option. Scudder, it's even worse than the Turner, or maybe it's better. I don't know, because in my mind they're basically the same. Rensetsu RF, this is probably the worst hand weapon in the game. There's some stiff competition, but it's close. This doesn't build up stagger very fast. at all. You can use it to maintain stagger, but it does almost nothing else, and there's going to be a better option. I would not recommend using this weapon ever. Lidlow. I think the Lidlow's okay. I put it near the bottom of B tier. There's something there. It does a lot of stagger relatively quickly, and it has some good timings with some other weapons that I'll get into, but in general, it's pretty limited, and there's usually a better option for what you're doing. You might be able to find something fun to do with this weapon, but I'm not going to recommend that you use it. Gauchen. I think this is the Gauchen. This is the other machine gun. It's got a larger clip than the Lidlow. This is also, I'm going to say it's slightly worse than the Lidlow because I like some of the timings with the Lidlow a little bit better. But this is just another machine gun. It's good for stagger maintenance, but it's going to end up pretty low on B tier. But it's not like it's better than these rifles. These rifles are like a whole tier below. Attaché. I don't really know. I still don't know about this weapon. I'm going to say it's probably here with the rifles. It does feel a little bit better than the rifles when I've used it, but I'm not going to say much to defend it. I think it's not a very good weapon, and you're probably going to find a better option. Etsujin. The Etsujin is a shadow of its former self. I'm going to put it behind these two more solid rifles. This weapon got nerfed, and it got nerfed in a pretty big way. It does have a replacement, so if you liked the Etsujin before, there is a weapon coming up that sort of does what it did, and it does it a little bit better, or a little bit worse, depending on what you were using the Etsujin for. But yeah, we're going to leave it just solidly in the middle of B tier. Huben. Yeah, the Huben's not good. This is a D tier weapon. It's at least better than this stupid thing, but the Huben is bad. This is very funny because everyone thought that you just hard lock onto people with tanks and shoot them with gats until they died, and actually it's terrible. Moving on to the Haldeman. Haldeman is just going to make A tier here. It's quite good, but most of the things that are special about the Haldeman, the Zimmerman just does better. And even like some of the more niche stuff that I thought the Haldeman was very good at, like punch combos, turns out it's actually better to just run two Zimmermans, cycle between them, and do punch combos that way. I've had a couple Japanese players do this to me, to great humiliation, and yeah, I can't in good faith recommend the Haldeman over the Zimmerman, but it is possible you will find a build where the Haldeman works better for you, so I'm leaving it in A tier because it is still a pretty playable part. Zimmerman. Yep, Zimmerman's S tier, and it's better than punching because it also stagger extends. What a cool weapon this is. This isn't going to change anytime soon, I think. But yeah, Zimmerman is just really solid. It does a high amount of damage, high amount of impact. It stagger extends people when they're stunned, and it has a very short reload rate and long range for what it does. Really, really, really overpowered weapon. If you're playing the game, you've probably lost to Zimmermans before, and you know how it feels. I don't think I need to explain much more than this. But if you're new, try this out. You'll win a lot. Sweet 16. I think the Sweet 16 is somewhere in A tier. I've seen people use this weapon in combos. It sort of just ends up doing the same thing that the Haldeman and the Zimmerman do, but worse. But it does a very large amount of burst damage, and it kind of has a niche, so I'm putting it in A tier. Coquelet. I don't really see people use this very much. I think it's probably above the Etsujin, but below these rifles. The Coquelet is just like sort of a worse version of the Ducat at this point. It was previously better, but and it builds up stagger kind of fast, but I think the clip size is not really what you want it to be, and even though it fires quickly, like if you unload 2 Coquelets into someone, it's pretty unlikely you stagger them, and then during the reload you probably lose. So I'm putting it in B tier. There's an argument to be made that you can equip it and do things with it, but I don't think it's a great argument. Ducat. The Ducat's going to be near the back of S tier. The Ducat is the weapon that replaced the Etsujin. It has good range, good stagger build-up, fires quickly, quick reload. It's just sort of a good, consistent damage weapon. People use it for this purpose, and it's the best in slot for that kind of job. If you want to maintain stagger, build up stagger quickly. It's a very often seen in the right arm, with something else behind. A pulse shield on the left arm is a very common choice, and it's very good. So I highly recommend the Ducat if you want to build up stagger quickly into some kind of punish combo. Sampu. Sampu's somewhere around here with the Coccolith. It might be better. I think I see more people using Sampu than Coccolith, so I'm just going to err on the side that the Sampu is better. But it sort of just does the same thing as the Ducat and the Coccolith, where it just builds up stagger very quickly. Viento. I think this is worse. It's probably worse than the Etsugen too. The Viento is sort of a shadow of its former self. It builds up stagger very quickly, but it has very limited range, and a lot of the time it's not going to work exactly the way you want it to. So I'm putting it in the middle of B tier. You can use it to build up stagger, but it's nothing to write home about. The Egg. It's actually like the energy gun or something like this, EG. But this is the shotgun. I'm going to put this in A tier. This is a good weapon. I don't think it quite makes S tier. There are a few things you can do to counter this weapon. You can equip the scan head, the one that looks like a hammerhead, or you can use a pulse shield, and pulse shield blanks it a little bit. It does provide a lot of pressure. So it is quite a good weapon. I'm putting it very high in A tier because I think it is very good, but I don't think it makes it over the line to S tier. I don't think it's really OP. It's not generalist enough for me. But it's very close, and there are lots of really good builds that use this weapon, so this is probably going to stay at the very top of A tier. Schwanga. The Schwanga is just a worse Majestic. It goes somewhere in the middle here. I'm going to put it probably above the Etsugen, but behind the pistols. It's fine. You can use the Schwanga, but you should use the Majestic. So let's just get to the Majestic. The Majestic. This is a great weapon. It's going to be near the back of S tier. It's a little bit less consistent than the Ducat, but the Majestic fires shots quickly enough to be like demand your opponent spend energy to dodge it. Sometimes it just randomly hits them anyway. It does a ton of stagger if you catch people with it. You can even sometimes catch people not using their shield correctly and build up a ton of stagger that way. You're probably not going to catch the best players doing this, but you'll catch some people doing it. I catch people all the time on ladder doing this, not Strider. I highly recommend using the Majestic. A lot of the, probably the most popular build in the West right now that I see everybody spamming uses 2 Majestics, 2 Fasans, and I think this weapon is really good. And yeah, I recommend trying it out. I don't recommend playing it if you're not on quadruped legs or tank legs, because especially like the boat or the middle range quad, because it makes RJs and bipeds stance. So it's a niche, but you can build around it, and it is worth building around. It's quite good. Little Gem. The Little Gem is just a worse Majestic and Schwanga. It's still a bazooka, and it's good at it's a bazooka. It's better than the attaché, but it's just some bazooka. So I'm gonna put it back here in B tier. It's gonna be somewhere between these 2 machine guns, I guess. I don't know. B tier is gonna get pretty big, so there's a lot of stuff, and B tier represents weapons you can bring and win some matches, but they're not going to get you super high up the ranks. They can probably get you to S rank if you're good enough, but again, you really have to be quite good with them, have a very niche build, and usually there's going to be something better you could be playing. The Javelin Alpha. This is another bazooka. I'm going to say it's got a better use case than the Schwanga, but it's around here in the middle of B tier. It's just a bazooka. It does high punish damage. It has a pretty low proxy det, I think. I'm not even sure it has one. I think it does have a proxy det, but I think it's smaller than the other bazookas. And it does a lot of damage, but it's less accurate than Majestic. You're probably just going to wish you had a Majestic. Is this the Gao Chen? I don't remember what this weapon is called, but this is a grenade launcher. It's not amazing. I'm just going to put it in C tier. It's probably better than these because it does a high amount of burst damage, but this grenade launcher just, it misses a lot, and there's some manipulation you can do, but it's not really worth the effort. The stagger you get from an AoE airburst is just not good enough. There's better options. Dizzy. This is better. I'm going to put it at the very bottom of B tier because I know somebody who says that this weapon is amazing. But again, there's probably going to be better options. You can airburst dizzies, you can shoot them at the ground. It's only going to punish some players, not everybody, but it does a lot of damage. It's probably going to win you some games if you use it. Iridium. This is my pet weapon. I'm putting it in B tier because it's my pet weapon. It's very fun to use, and it has the same problems as these other two grenade launchers where it just ends up not being worth it. You're probably just better off with the Majestic, but it is quite fun, and I like doming people with it. It does feel better when you hit someone in the face with an Iridium because you know it doesn't have proxy debt, so it's like an extra insult to injury. It's still not very good. It probably should be in C tier, but I'm bumping it up. I'm not doing a very good job of being more critical at this point. I guess my S tier is going to be smaller, but yeah, this is loose. Okay, this is the Firebomb launcher. I don't know whether this is the Kyurei or the Kuriku, but I do know it's terrible. I think it's better than the GAT, maybe, because, like, you know, it does build up a status, I guess, and, like, some point people have to land and get the status built up, but it is bad. I would not recommend using this weapon. People are just going to be in the air. They're going to avoid it. They're not going to get hit by it. It does do quite a lot of damage if people stand in the fire, but that requires your opponent to turn their brain off and stop playing. So some people do that, but I don't think you should bet on it when you're going into PvP. Smoke. I think this weapon's really, really good. I'm going to put Smoke in S tier. There are some incredible things you can do with Smoke. This is probably one of the highest skill cap weapons in the game. And you know, this weapon is for a very specific kind of person. It breaks lock. It keeps your opponents from, like, using their missiles on you. It has a very specific niche. If you enjoy this kind of weapon, this is the only thing that does it, and it does it actually quite well. So I'm going to put it in S tier, but it's not for me, and if it's for you, go ahead and go and give it a try and see if you can make Smoke work. I know 1 or 2 players who can do this, but the builds end up a little bit gimmicky, so I do think the skill cap is higher than those players are reaching. Like, I think that like this weapon is probably better than even the best players who are using it right now are using it. But I do think that, you know, take it with don't just, like, equip this and go in and expect to win your game because you equipped Smoke. It's not like the Zimmerman. It's not a free win. You have to think, and you have to be really good at the game to use this. Therapist. Therapist is fine. I'm going to put it somewhere in here. It's like consistent damage, but it's not amazing. I'm putting it probably above the quad kick because it's at least consistent. It just builds up stun. There are some builds that use it, and it does consistent damage. I wish it was better. I really loved the patch where it was strong, but right now it's just kind of mid. But, I mean, it is one of the only weapons where it just, like, sprays this huge area of damage, and these bullets have huge impacts, and that might be what you're in the market for. It's pretty good against lights, so it has a use case, but I'm not going to say it's excellent. Flamethrower. This is pretty much the same as the Therapist. I'm going to say I see it used less, but it's in the same area where it's got, like, a niche. It does consistent damage. It doesn't build up any stagger at all. But I've seen somebody who plays a build that plays Pulse Scutum, Flamethrower, then Smoke, and what's the last weapon? Pulse Scutum, Flamethrower, Smoke. And maybe they have a FOW behind the Pulse Scutum. Anyway, they just hold the Scutum up, smoke themselves, and cycle through the Flamethrower, and blind you and damage you while having a shield in front of them and being impossible to lock onto. That's the kind of build that plays Smoke. That's the kind of build that plays Flamethrower. That's the kind of build that will be playing Pulse Scutum when I eventually add it to the list. It's good. It's very cheesy. It's enabled completely by Smoke and not so much by Flamethrower. You can kind of replace this part, but it does have a niche. LRA. That's right. This is the LRA. Yeah, this is a weapon with a niche. It does consistent damage. I'm gonna put it here with the Curtis. I think it's probably slightly better. I've seen more people use it. I'm gonna say it's better than these. I've seen more people use the LRA. It just does consistent damage. It's consistent damage. It has a charged attack that does a pretty good punish and high muzzle velocity. You can build kites with it. You can do lots of stuff, but it's nothing to write home about. It's just a laser. This is not the LRA. This is just the LR. Sorry, my mistake. This is the LRA. It's the same thing, except it's better. I'm going to put it above these. I'm going to put it above these. I'm going to put it above these. LRA, is it A tier? LRA is A tier. Where does it go? I'm going to say it's below the Haldeman. The LRA has a very high muzzle velocity when you fire its charge attack. That's its niche. If you're using regular attacks, it's probably not the weapon for you. But if you're looking to dome people with very high muzzle velocity charge attacks that do lots of damage, that's what the LRA does. I don't think it's very good into pulse shield, but it is pretty good into the lighter weight builds that try to run from you. In general, weapons are not that accurate in Armored Core 6, so this is going to be frustrating to use if you're not used to that. But it does a lot of damage when it does hit, and I think it is a solid choice for that niche. LRB. The LRB has fallen off a little bit. I'm not even going to say it's in S tier. I'm going to say it's A tier. This weapon, it does a lot of damage. It's really consistent. It's really good at its job. But it's like handleable. Like the builds that previously like struggled against this have sort of learned to adapt to it. You can wiggle to avoid the LRB shots. You can just block it with pulse shield. Usually builds that build LRB don't have a lot of backup. It is still seen on like some pretty good builds, but I'm lower on this weapon now than I was, and I'm moving it out of S tier into A tier. The crossbow laser shotgun. This weapon's funny. It's really fun. I think it's somewhere around here with these rifles. It's a blast to use. It runs out of ammo really fast, so that's probably one of the biggest limitations for it. And only really its charge shot matters, but it does a lot of damage, and it comes out fairly quickly. It's got somewhat limited range, but I like this weapon. It sort of suffers because it doesn't have proxy det like the Majestic does. At least I don't think it does. But it hits me a lot. It does a lot of damage when it does, and it looks very fun to use when I've seen good players use it, and even when I use it, it's quite fun. Wooger. I'm going to put this weapon right up here in A tier. I think there are some cases where this weapon is kind of dead, and it feels really bad, but the Wooger is a very good weapon. Hit stun is a broken mechanic, and the charge attack from the Wooger hit stuns people. Plus, you can just spam the auto fire, and the Wooger will still do something in matchups where you're not going to get the charge attack off. But there are matchups where it's just kind of a dead part, and so it's not making it into S tier. Laser handgun. I think this weapon is kind of bad. And the reason this weapon is bad is because it accidentally charge shots a lot, and that just gets you killed. The charge time is too short, and the input registration is not good enough for this weapon to really be good. So usually you want to just be spamming it, and you'll accidentally charge shot, and then you lose. So if you can avoid that, then this weapon is maybe more playable. But for now, I'm putting it in C tier because I think it's too hard to use and not worth the effort. The plasma gun. This is kind of like the worst version of the Nebula. It is still pretty good. I see people use it. I'm not going to put it in S tier or an A tier, but I'm going to put it in B tier. It's good. It's probably better than this laser shotgun. It just builds up a large amount of stagger and damage, and it has a pretty big area. You usually use the charge shot for it, but you can just tap fire it if you need to. But usually you're going to be better off using the Nebula. Speaking of the Nebula, this is an S tier weapon. This weapon is incredible. I think this weapon is better than the Zimmerman. I think this, we'll see if it ends up, it's probably not going to be the best part in the game, but the best weapon that's like, because that actually shoots them, that isn't a shield. Um, the Nebula is incredibly consistent. It does a lot of damage and stagger, but more than that, it's incredibly consistent. Charge it, fire it, it's going to hit, it's going to do some damage and stagger, it's going to chip them consistently, and usually you do it while running away. Again, this is a weapon that's highly recommended on quad or tank legs only because it will stance you otherwise, but this weapon is incredibly good, incredibly consistent. If you are a lightweight quad player sitting up in the skybox plinking at people, this is your favorite weapon. The Redshift Nebula. I'm going to put this in A tier. I see a lot of people use this, and it does a lot of damage. It's somewhere around here near the Wooger. But when I have used it, it's been very inconsistent, and I think I'm probably just bad and getting hit with it when I shouldn't. However, it does do an incredible amount of damage, and fast builds like on Lammergeier can run up to you and just blast you with redshifts and DPS you down incredibly quickly. So there is something to that. That said, again, I think there are going to be matchups where it's dead, it just doesn't hit, and I suspect that for that reason, it's not making it into S tier. I do see this on with like a lot of top players play the Redshift, so I don't think it's bad. I think you could definitely bring it in a competitive environment and get away with it, but I think it probably just has some drawbacks that will be noticed if you play for a long time on ladder, and you're going to probably want to switch to something else at some point to get more consistent wins. The Walter Rifle. I don't really know what to do with this weapon. I'm going to put it at the very bottom of A tier. The Noodle is cool. And it's sort of like the Red Nebula. It has better muzzle velocity and it does more damage, but it's very, very heavy. It's very limiting to your build. And I haven't really seen people make it work the ways they used to. So I'm putting it in A tier. I do think there are builds that can use this weapon. I think that the skill cap is really high and we're not currently reaching it, but I would not recommend it above any of the weapons in S tier. Or even really any of the weapons in A tier, but I would recommend it over almost all the weapons in B tier. The Karasawa. The Karasawa is not as good as you want it to be. I'm going to put it down here in B tier. It does a high amount of damage and stagger. If you use a 20B generator or 20C generator, it charges pretty quickly. But I just, like, it's not super consistent. There are builds that just beat it. Sometimes you just land a Karasawa and just kill someone. That feels great. Sometimes it misses. It's on cooldown for 10 seconds and you die. So it's a B tier weapon. If you can land every single one of your Karasawa shots, you'll probably get rank 1. Actually, you probably won't. They'll probably pulse shield it, and maybe you'll get into the top 100. We'll see. Moving on to the pulse guns. This is the faster firing pulse gun. I think this one's pretty bad. I'm going to put it in C tier. It's above most of these weapons. It doesn't really have a niche, I think. You just have to get too close, and it doesn't reward you enough for doing that. That's really all I have to say about this weapon. It does a lot of damage, but it doesn't do very much stagger, and the other pulse gun I think is a little bit better. It's not much better, though. I'm going to put it above some of these more suspicious weapons in B tier, but I think it is, it's a niche part. It does damage. It has a pretty big projectile, but it doesn't build up a lot of stagger. You're probably going to use it mostly while running away. And I just don't think it is going to get there very often. So you can torture some people with it, but most of the time when you use this weapon, you're probably going to have had a better option. The HML, the hand missile. The hand missile's fine. All of the missiles are just going to go at the very top of B tier for the most part. Unless they're really exceptional, put them in A tier or S tier. But the hand missile is... it's going to be our first missile in B tier, and it's not going to be our last. Hand split. This is slightly better than the hand missile. It's also going in B tier for the same reasons. The aperitif. I'm going to do the same thing, except I'm going to put it at the bottom of B tier. Maybe in C. maybe the top of C tier. No, it's at the bottom of B tier. It has some pretty good applications. You could frame trap people with it sometimes, but it is a very niche missile, and there is a lot of counterplay. So I am not comfortable putting this much higher. I mean, it's probably higher than the suspicious weapons and this pulse gun. I'm not comfortable putting it much higher than this. There's too much counterplay, and I think that this weapon is sort of, you know, a little bit over nerfed from what it was originally. The FOW. This is just another good hand missile. I think it's really hard to tell between these three. I know that the hand missile's the worst, but it's hard for me to say which of these is better, the split or the FOW. I'm going to say the FOW is better. It's a little bit more consistent. You could do some cooler tricks with it. But in general, these are all pretty similar. The Ashmead. This is pretty bad. The pile just never really works. It does a lot of damage when it does work, but that is never. I'm going to put it at the top of C tier. If you pile someone, it's incredibly disrespectful and very funny. So if you like one-shotting people in situations where they shouldn't be one-shot, then use this weapon. Otherwise, there's going to be better options, even if you want to, especially if you want to play melee. The explosive thrower. Yeah, people learn to manual aim this weapon. It's incredible. It's really, really good. It's like slightly worse than the Zimmerman maybe, but in its niche, it's incredibly good. Really good when paired with the Nebula. There are a lot of Lammergeiers that are running Nebula explosive thrower, and it is just very irritating to try and run at them. A lot of times they'll be manual aiming the explosive thrower, so it's a very high skill cap weapon. Be aware. It's in S tier because it's good, but it's not easy. That said, maybe, I don't know how hard manual aim actually is. I don't do it very much, so it might be easier than I'm representing. Mastering it is hard, but getting away with it may be pretty easy. I don't know. I don't know how many times you need to hit this before it's good. But I've scrimmed a lot with people who've been trying to use this weapon and struggling. And then I've played a lot of games with people who are experts at this weapon, and it is just it's a night and day difference to me. So I think that it's probably got a pretty high skill cap. Chainsaw. This weapon's funny. It's very similar to the pile bunker. I'm gonna say, because it has a lunge, it's better. It's probably better than all these suspicious weapons. I'm gonna put it around here in the middle of B tier. Chainsaw does a lot of damage when you land it to hit, but it's really inconsistent. It has some weird interactions where people slip out and stuff. But I do think that if you want to 100 to 0 somebody with a melee weapon, this is a good choice. If you're just trying to have fun, you will get some kills on ladder, and it'll be fun enough to use that I feel comfortable putting it in B tier. Stun Baton. It's just it's a pretty bad melee weapon. It's also funny and disrespectful. It goes somewhere around here in the middle of C tier. You can get kills with it, but I wouldn't recommend bringing it to a competitive game and expecting to get kills. It'll be super disrespectful if you do, and you'll probably have fun, but it'll probably be 9 losses between every win. Dagger. Where do we put the dagger? There's not a lot of good dagger users, but I do think that the dagger is very, very good. I'm going to put it up here in A tier. The reason I'm putting it in A tier is because it has a lot of niche use cases that make it a very usable weapon. Dash canceling with it, or there's something called slingshotting, which is where you use the charge attack and then quick boost out of it, and you can send yourself very far and it ignores your weight. So if you're playing a really heavy build like a tank or a quad, you can do this to launch yourself. And I've seen people stagger extend with it to great effect because it has a very long combo, and you can kind of hold it and hold people in stagger while your weapons reload. So if you like things like that, it's sort of an alternative to the punch. It's not quite as good because you have to actually equip a weapon, whereas with the punch you can sort of have a free weapon, but it has use cases that the punch doesn't. So go ahead and give the dagger a try. It is if you're going to try to play melee, it is one of the melee weapons that actually is usable. Laser Blade. It's another one of my kind of pet weapons. I really like using the laser blade to kill lambs, but it is just really inconsistent. It's very good when it works, and it is very bad when it doesn't. So I'm putting it in B tier because the success case is incredible, but the failure case is abysmal, which just lands it as an inconsistent B tier weapon. I wish that it was a little bit more consistent. It would be great, but as it stands right now, it loses too hard to pulse shield, and it's just not consistent enough to make up that difference. Laser Slicer. This is similar to Laser Dagger. It's just kind of worse. I'm going to put it somewhere in the middle of B tier. It's around here with these weapons. There's not a lot of like positive things I can say about Laser Slicer because it just gets outclassed by other parts in the same category. But if you are, if you want to just anime combo somebody, the Laser Slicer does do that. You have to wait until they're staggered, you just anime combo them, do a bunch of damage, and then fire your weapons because they'll be reloaded. And it's free. It's like way easier to use than the dagger, but it's worse. Lance is bad. It's inconsistent. It's very funny. I'm gonna say it's better than the pile bunker, but not by much. People just fall off this weapon way too much. I wish it was more consistent when you hit them, that they got grabbed, and actually, like, this weapon would be really, really good against pulse shields if it was more consistent. Like, if it really pressured the pulse shields like it should. This would be one of the best melee weapons in the game, but it just doesn't work. Like, you take it into game, you know how it works in theory, and then you hit somebody and you clip right off them and fly off into oblivion and die some punish because you're still in your recovery animation. So it's very sad. Lance is in C tier. I want it to be higher, but it's not. Hammer. This weapon has been pretty heavily nerfed. It is not making it into S tier. I'm putting it somewhere in the middle of A tier because it's still good, but it's not like you're probably going to be wishing you were using the explosive thrower if you're trying to play keep away. It's just doesn't do enough anymore. It doesn't do enough damage and stagger, and yeah, it's sort of a shadow of its former self. It's still a good weapon. I'm still putting it in A, but there's going to be a better weapon for this slot probably. Pulse Blade. This is a very popular melee option. It's definitely better than the Laser Blade. I'm going to put it around here in B tier. It's not anything really to write home about, but Charge Attack from Pulse Blade can hit stun. You can use it to combo into melee attacks. You can do touch of death stuff with it, but it's not incredibly consistent. Sometimes it misses. Sometimes it's just not enough. Or somebody just uses a pulse shield, so it's in B. It's going to stay in B, but if you want to play a melee build, it is an option. That's my evaluation of this weapon. Moonlight. It's like a bazooka, basically. I'm going to put it around where the Stronga is. It's just one of these like bad bazookas. It's probably like somewhere in here. The charge attack probably doesn't matter. You can use it with 20 B generator, but you can't use 20 B generator, so that doesn't matter. And if you're not on quad or tank, it stances you. So there's a lot of drawbacks to the Moonlight. It is cool. It does a lot of damage. It does a fair bit of stagger. It does a lot of damage, especially if you're the right generator, because it does scale off your energy weapon stat in the generator. But I don't think that it's like I don't think it's anything special. Redshift, it's just like, it's almost identical, except it doesn't scale off your energy weapon stat in your generator, and it does more stagger and I think more punish damage. So it's like a little bit better, but these are essentially the same weapon, and there's not like a huge difference between my evaluation of them, because most of what matters is how often they hit and how often they're good, and that doesn't change between these two weapons. Walter Blade. I want to put it in S tier so bad, but it's going to be at the top of A tier. Very high skill cap weapon. It has some consistency issues. It has issues where it will like snapshot somebody's altitude and it won't reach them. I use this weapon a lot. This is like one of the main weapons I use when I play on ladder, but yeah, it just doesn't quite get over the line into S tier. It's very good. There's some really cool tricks you can do with it. There's like 2 or 3 different things people call Demon Blade. I think right now the most common one is to start in manual lock, or start in manual aim, start the Welter Blade, and then exit out of manual aim at the right frame, and it will like snapshot onto the player and swipe across them very fast. There's also what I do, which is I just play it on quad legs, and the tracking is much better. So you could just use it in the air while slightly above someone, as long as they don't have enough room to run under you, or they'll have a hard time getting back over you without the Welter Blade tracking to them. And if they try to go past you, a lot of the time it will catch them anyway. If they spend a lot of energy, they can get away from it sometimes. And sometimes it just randomly snapshots badly, as I said. But it is quite good, so I'm putting it at the top of A tier. I don't remember what this weapon's called, but this is the Shoulder Gat. I'm putting this right next to the Lidlow, because that's the combo I'm talking about. They have a very similar fire, like, reload pattern. So this overheats and reloads about the same time this does, and they both fire for about the same amount of time. I think there's a funny build you can play where you equip both of these and just run people down, but it's just funny. It's not like super good. You will get some kills, but I'm not sure that this weapon is like very often going to beat out weapons of the same job in the same slot. Morley. This is not actually good. And it's too heavy, and it doesn't hit enough. It's probably at the top of C tier. There were some thoughts that maybe this was better now. I bought into it. I was wrong. This weapon's not actually very good. Nobody uses it anymore, and with good reason. It just kind of doesn't do enough. It doesn't really hit very often, and there's almost always a better option. You probably just want to be using like a laser cannon. Earshot. The Earshot's pretty good. People are using this even more now. I'm going to put it in A tier. I think it's better than some of this stuff. It's still kind of cheese, but I also think this is a very high skill cap weapon, despite the fact that it's just a big dumb grenade launcher. If you're able to manual aim, hit the ground like behind a shield user, or I don't think you're going to be air bursting this, but it does have a 90-meter radius, so it's like that's something I should discuss. This weapon can be good. It does a lot of damage and stagger, and I see people using it on ladder a lot. If you can get it to work through either skill or I guess just the right matchups, it can be very, very good. So I'm going to put the Earshot in A. Songbirds. Weapon's bad. It's stinky. It just doesn't have anything. None of what this does is what you want it to do. I don't think it's in D tier. It's not like unusable, but it's just really inconsistent, really not good. When it lands, it's funny, but it is not. It's not really getting there. Yeah, it's going to be pretty low down here in C tier, somewhere around where the rifles are. Stun Needle. This weapon is, I think, a sleeper right now, like sleeper B tier. It's not actually good, but I think it's better than it's really underrepresented compared to all of these other B tier weapons, and I think it is fine. Like it pretty much one-shots PA. It does a lot of damage and builds up a lot of electricity pretty quick, and it does a very high punish. It isn't like super consistent to land, and that's pretty much what holds it back, but I think it is serviceable. Sorry about that. LCS. I'm finally demoting the LCS to A tier. It is just, I need to be more critical, and this weapon has some drawbacks that like really glaring now. So I'm putting it near the bottom of A tier. The LCS is really good at punishing pulse shields if you can get in range of them and stay in range of them. Which, if you equip the LCS, you probably have to be on a tank or a quad to even try to do now, because stancing on a biped is so bad against most of the more meta builds that you know, you're probably just going to get ratted by somebody with a pulse shield. They're probably going to kite you or rat you and stay away from your LCS and not get hit very much. So it is really good. It has a really good use case, but the meta is not right for this weapon, and you're going to get punished for taking it. So I'm putting it in A tier. I want it to be S tier, but it is just not consistent enough against enough builds, and in A tier it will remain. LCA. This is a very cheesy weapon, but it is really good when it works. I'm putting it, it's kind of like the LRA, but it's like turbo cheese version. You just dome people with an incredibly powerful charge shot, usually use it as a punish by staggering them some other way. It can be kind of a dead part, and it has very low ammo. It's pretty hard to use, it's pretty heavy, so there's lots of drawbacks to using this weapon, but it is very good. Just because of how much damage it does. I don't know if I recommend building around it, but if you really want something like this, you can make it work. So please go ahead and try the LCA. A lot of times, giant tanks will play it with like all sorts of other weapons. Not really going to try to get into how those builds work right now, but I'm going to put it in A tier for now. LCB. This weapon has a niche, but it is a shadow of its former self. I'm putting it somewhere in B tier. It's kind of like, I think it's better than the Kurosawa. It's sort of doing what the Kurosawa does. You just charge it up and fire it. It's quite often a bit better because the hitbox is so big, but you can't just rapid fire it in people's face. You have to be sniping people with it in manual aim, and that will only get you so far. There are builds that will just like shield it and not really care. And against those builds, it's a lot worse than the LCS now. LCD. This part's somewhere up here with the LCS. It's very similar. I would say it's probably worse. But it is another cannon that you can just fire into shields. It puts a lot of pressure on them. It has a charge shot that's very good. But it suffers from the same problems where it like stances you and you can't really keep up with the builds that you need to keep up with to make this good. Fasan. This weapon, if you're really good at, I'm going to put it like the higher skill cap weapons in S now. If you're really good at manual aim, the Fasan is incredible. It does unbelievable amounts of damage and stagger. It's very hard to use, but I mean, the success I see with people using this weapon kind of speaks for itself. It's niche for a reason. You have to be either good at manual aim or really good at predicting your aiming because it'll miss a lot. But fully charged Fasan shots just wreck people. So I'm putting it in S tier because I see these fully charged Fasan shots wreck people all the time. Pulse cannon. The pulse cannon is usable. It's got a pretty good niche. It doesn't like slow you down like the other cannons do. So I'm going to put it near the top of A. It does have a job. It puts pressure on pulse shield. It puts pressure on PA, and you do see it on very specialized like meta hunter kind of builds. So I think this weapon's good. I think it's an A tier, and I'm gonna not talk about it more because I don't know too much about how to use it. Shield launcher. The shield launcher is okay. It's like sort of a pet weapon. I've seen people use it. It's going to be around here with the chainsaw and this bubble gun. I've seen people use it while running away, which lets you block shots or do other like kind of neat tricks where you get people to run into it, take a bunch of stagger. It's hard to use. The skill cap's very high. I don't think the reward is that high. Like if you actually succeed at using it, like a lot of the time somebody's just going to run through the shield and take the stagger and kill you. So there's probably a better part to put in this slot, but I have seen people use this to be irritating, and it does look fun. So I'm putting it in B tier. I don't think it's bad. It's not like inconsistent at what it does. I just don't know like when you need what it does. If you find the right build for it, it could be a very valuable part to your build. Aurora. This is going to be one of these pretty good missiles. I'm putting it in A tier. Because it is a shoulder part, I'm going to put it above the FAL, because you can fire it while also having other hand weapons. You don't have to like swap out. So the Aurora is just, or I'm sorry, I'm putting it in B tier, not A tier. It's just a good missile, but it's nothing special. It is again just a good missile. MLT4. This is the worst missile, but it's not unusable. It's just going to be somewhere in the middle of B tier. Where do I put it? Probably like around here behind the flamethrower. The MLT4 is a consistent missile. You fire it, it has a very specific pattern. You'll probably put something else in the slot that has more threat, but you won't regret equipping this, really. MLT6, it's the same thing, it's like a little bit better. You see it more often, but it is, again, it's doing almost the exact same job as the MLT4. It fires more missiles less frequently. MLT10, this one's a bit better. I'm going to put this in A tier. A lot of people use this part as a pressure tool on their heavy pulse shield builds, and it does that job very well. You can also just like big dumb fire them in a chain, and it's very hard to dodge like 20 missiles firing at you one by one. So it's somewhere in the middle of A tier. It does apply a lot of pressure. It doesn't really have any like downsides, but it's also like not super impressive. And it is possible to dodge all 20 of those missiles. It's just annoying. So I'm going to put it around here in A tier. It's a good consistent pressure missile. It's really for more specialized builds because there are a few things that interrupt it, but if you're like a big heavy build and you're trying to run people down, sometimes this is the correct part. Split 12. I believe this is the Split 12. This is a very good missile. I'm going to put it up here with these other good missiles. I don't see people use it quite as much as the Aurora, but it's a shoulder missile, so I'm putting it above the hand missiles. And yeah, it just does consistent. It consistently irritates people, does a lot of damage, and you can manipulate it to do some silly stuff. Split 8. I'm going to say this is slightly better than the Split 12. I see more people use it. The more frequent fire rate makes your opponent spend energy more frequently to dodge this missile. So that's why it's above the Split 12. I think it actually does less DPS. So if you're trying to do DPS, you might want to prefer the Split 12 if you're hitting it more consistently. But I think you actually want to make people dodge more often because like using this for stagger maintenance is really good. Split 16. This is kind of a mid missile. You're really going to prefer to equip the Split 12 or the Split 8. Duo. This is the Duo 2. Duo 2 is a very good missile. Putting it up here with the splits. I don't know. I think it's probably slightly worse. This is a spammable missile. It is really obnoxious. It does almost nothing in close range, but if you get high above somebody or high below or far below somebody, it will still harass them. But you have to be like 200 meters away at least, I think, for this to work. I don't know the exact number. That's an estimate, not a value you should use. You should look up what the actual number is you need to be away, or just play test and see what the number is for you. But this is a good part. It's very irritating. Duo 6. I'm going to say it's slightly worse for the same reason that the 12 is slightly worse than the 8, just because it's got a slower fire rate. But it does the same job, and it's very irritating to play against. Sometimes this is a better choice if you have other missiles that refresh on the same time to let you think less or fire multiple missiles with different shaped trajectories to make your opponent have a harder time dodging all of those different trajectories at the same time. So sometimes it could be a better choice, but I think in general, in a vacuum, the 2 is better. But we're splitting hairs. I don't remember which one this is called. This is another duo missile, but it fires the missiles sequentially. I think this sort of kills the purpose of the part, so I'm going to put it back here with these other missiles. It's like it does a lot of DPS and stagger, if I remember correctly, but I just think that because it gives people more time to get out of the optimal range for it to work, it's worse than these other two. Like these two, you can kind of just instant fire and punish somebody for being at the range where they work, whereas this missile you can't really do that with. Verts. You're better off equipping nothing. And the more weight you equip and spend on verts, the more you're going to regret it. These never hit. and they are really bad. Don't equip vertical missiles. If you learned anything from this video, it's don't equip vertical missiles. By the way, there's a random parts tournament. If you want to equip vertical missiles and be, absolved of guilt for doing so, check the description, sign up for the random parts tournament. It's going to be fun. You're going to end up equipping vertical missiles at some point. Active missile. This missile's very good. I'm putting it up here with the splits and the duos. I think it's like probably worse than the splits and the duos, and I think again the 1 is better than the 2 because of the same, like it makes people spend their energy more often. It has more different missile trajectories, but the active missile's pretty good. It causes a lot of stagger. It can be a good missile in your missile array, and this one is also just as good. And again, the reason all these shoulder missiles are above these hand missiles isn't necessarily because they're better, but because the way that they slot into your AC is better. It's nice to have all 4 weapons active at once and not have to cycle between them, slow down the reload time or overheat time of one of your weapons. Container missile. Container missile is very funny. I'm going to put it at the top of C tier. We really want it to work. It's a cool zoning tool, but it's never really working. People usually just get away from it, or it doesn't, when they stand in it, it doesn't do enough, or they just avoid like half the missiles. So container missile is funny, but not good. Delivery boy, very bad, very bad. It's either behind nothing or above it. It's actually worse, and I think it's heavier than all these. I think Delivery Boy might be the worst weapon in the game. You really want to root for Delivery Boy, alright? It's very funny. You want him to become a delivery man. You want him to grow up and be happy and, get that job, get that full adult income, but he's not going to be. He's going to stay a delivery boy, and he's going to be worse than nothing. Oops, sorry about that. Bumped the mouse there. Soup. Soup is a fine missile. It's just going to be another missile in this missile array. I mean, I think it's actually kind of like worse than all of these. It's a little bit easier to avoid, and it's heavier, but Soup is a fine missile. You won't regret equipping a Soup, especially if you're chasing people, but it has sort of the same problem as the duos, where if they're close enough, it doesn't really do very much, and it's not very good in like close range combat. So you're going to want some backup weapons if you're equipping Soups. Jav B. This weapon is probably better than it's currently getting credit for. I'm going to put it around here. The Javelin Beta is sort of the opposite of these longer range missiles, where it's only good closer up. But when you are in around like 100 or 200 meters, the Jav B does a lot of stagger really fast, and it has it is like pretty hard to avoid. So it can just like snap stagger people when they're not expecting it, which makes it pretty good in a missile array of the right kinds of missiles. Zoom out a bit here. So I do think the Javelin B is a good addition to a healthy missile array. Treno. I want the Treno to be better than this, but it's not. It's somewhere near the bottom of near B tier. I mean, it is a missile you can equip, and it does do stuff, but it's pretty inconsistent, and it just takes too long to lock on, and it is too inconsistent when it's not locked on. I have seen it work. It's a fun weapon. It's good punish, and it can make people quick boost. So it might have a niche in a build, but it is very likely you're going to find a part that is better than the Treno. It is solidly in B tier, along with most of the other weapons. Plasma missile. This is a great missile. This is like probably the best missile in the game. I'm going to put it up here with the MLT-10. I think it's better. Very consistent damage. If you're just going to equip one missile to try and keep maintaining stagger, this is the missile you equip. And it does that job very well. It is not super impressive. It's not game-winning, but it can't, well, I mean, it's not flashy. It's not going to like instantly win you the game on the spot, but it can be game-winning in that it maintains stagger against a lot of targets that would try to drop stagger against you. So this is a great weapon. It's very inconsistent, or it's very consistent, not very flashy, and you should definitely give it a try if you just want like a consistent plink on somebody to keep their stagger up. This is just a worse version of the This plasma missile, I actually don't think it's very usable at all, but there might be a case where like the reload matters, but I'm going to put it at the bottom of these other shoulder missiles. It is it's just worse than this Plasma 3. The Plasma 6 I don't recommend using over the Plasma 3. I've never found a use case for it. It's fine if you use it. Like, it's going to be a B tier weapon. It's going to be a missile. It's going to do something, but it's like, it's just the same missile as this, but slower firing. And like slightly more AoE, but it's like not a significant amount of AoE, and I think you're always going to want the Plasma 3 over the Plasma 6. VPM. This is an avoidable missile. It can be a healthy addition to the missile array. I'm going to put it at the bottom of the B tier, the high B tier missiles. This is pretty avoidable now. It's a shadow of its foremost self. But it can be a healthy addition to a missile array. It comes with a very different pattern than a lot of the other missiles, so it can be difficult to avoid in conjunction with other missiles. In B tier it goes. Coral Missile. This is very good when it works, and if you have a build specialized around making it work, it can be very good. And but in close range, the Coral Missile becomes very bad, and there are some failure cases that mean that this weapon is going to be gatekept out of S tier right now. I'm going to put it around here near the top of A tier, because it is very good when it works, but it doesn't always work. On Lammergeier, though, this is probably still a best in slot part most of the time. Orbits. Orbits are pretty good at maintaining stagger. I like this part a lot. I'm going to put it around here with the missiles. It is very good at maintaining stagger. This doesn't it cools down quickly when it overheats, and it takes a very long time to overheat, so you can toggle it on and off. The biggest disadvantage to the orbit is that when you get kicked or hit stunned in any way, it automatically goes back down into the pack, and you have to spend the animation time re-enabling it. Huxley. This is sort of the same thing as the laser orbit, except it's up for less time and it does more stagger. It overheats, like the overheat takes longer to cool down, and it overheats more quickly, but it does a lot more stagger, and it has a kind of a different use case, but it's around the same area because although they're doing different jobs, they're about the same amount of good at it. Laser turret. I think this is B tier. It's like kind of a neat pet weapon. You can make it work by like kiting people into it and stuff, and it can attack people from directions they don't expect. But it's like not super flashy. It doesn't do a whole lot. So we're going to put it down at the bottom of B tier. And as you'll notice, B tier is huge. There's lots of weapons that are just like mid, right? Like you can equip them, you can do stuff with them. You probably want a few more S or A tier weapons on your build than B tier ones. But you can like win games and play an S rank and even get into the top 100 with a lot of these B tier weapons. It's just you will most often see these S and A tier weapons a lot more. Laser drones. These are A tier. They're very good. They're like the Coral Missile. I think I'm going to say they're a little bit better than the Coral Missile and the Stun Gun. And I'm going to probably say that these are at the top of A tier. They're a little inconsistent. There are builds that these are just dead against, but the builds that they're not dead against, they wreck. They are super, super powerful if they are hitting people consistently. And you see them on a lot of top tier builds, and there's a reason for that, and is that they are good against the builds. They're like really the best weapon you could take against the builds that they're good against. And the builds that avoid them, oftentimes you have weapons that help you deal with those builds better. And they still do punish damage. So when you stagger somebody, even if if it would ordinarily be a dead part in the matchup, then they can do tons of burst damage as a punishment to the stagger. So laser drones are at the top of A tier. All right, onto the shields. Pulse shield. This is one of the best parts in the game. Is it better than the Nebula? I think the Pulse Shield is the most pivotal part in the game. I wish it was worse. Even after being nerfed, this is just the best part in the game. It prevents a lot of the interactions you need to have to kill another AC, and it's incredibly consistent. It is kind of high skill cap. You do have to press the Pulse Shield button and not overheat it. But by kind of high skill cap, I mean like higher than just like rolling your face on the keyboard and blasting people. you can learn to use this weapon, and it's not that hard, or this part, and it's not that hard. So highly recommend the Pulse Shield. It is S tier. These other shields are going to end up in A tier, even though they're similar to the Pulse Shield, because they're just kind of worse versions of it. I'm going to put them at the bottom of A tier because you're almost never going to equip them over the Pulse Shield. This one is like the spammable one, so you would equip this if you're just like constantly spamming the shield. You kind of like feather the trigger. I'm actually going to put it down in B tier, I think is healthier. This is the lighter weight one. This one I'm going to leave in A tier because there is sometimes a case where you want to use the lightweight one over the regular Pulse Shield. The Pulse Bucklers are also up here in A tier. They are moderately usable. There are very specific builds that can use them. Those builds have been nerfed. This is probably the biggest blind spot I have for the whole patch. The use cases for these are very few and far between, and the builds, pretty much the only thing that 1.8 changed was hitboxes on Knocked Legs, Basho Core, and a few other parts. But there was a build that very specifically abused, I think it was this shield, but this shield is usable in a similar way, to kite you, have a very small hitbox, and almost never get hit. I don't know if that build is just unplayable now. I think it's worse, but I think these parts still are, they're very good in the right assembly, and I'm going to put them in A tier for safety. But take this with a grain of salt because this is probably my biggest blind spot. Pulse Scutum. This is a funny part. It's definitely got a niche. I'm going to put it, behind these missiles, but not far behind. The Pulse Scutum is... There are very specific assemblies that can use it. As I said, there's that smoke build where you use a smoke launcher, flamethrower, and a Pulse Scutum, and you just try to irritate your opponent until they throw their controller at their television. But that works, and I'm sure that there is at least one television or monitor that has been destroyed due to the Pulse Scutum, so I'm putting it in B tier. Coral Shield. The Coral Shield is a very niche shield, and I think it is pretty punishable, so I'm going to put it down here with the Pulse Scutum. It doesn't make you hold your left-hand weapon back when you activate it, so it does have a niche, but if you don't perfectly insta-guard things, I think you end up getting more residual stagger than you would otherwise have gotten from weapons, or it's at least very close, so it's like pretty much useless if you're holding it too long. But it does have a niche. I do think that there are usable builds that will use this part, so I'm going to put it in B tier, but it's pretty low B tier. Anyway, that is my tier list. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Love it or hate it. Think any of these parts should be anywhere else on the list. Think that after all of these hours I should know better than this. Please give me your opinion. If you feel like it, like the video. Once again, there will be a random parts tournament hosted on April 1st by GenKumon. I hope I'm getting the date right. I'll correct it in the description if it's wrong. The original intent was April 1st, but I think he's hosting more tournaments now, so there's a slight chance that changes. But either way, you can go and join his Discord to participate in the event. I'll leave a link in the description, and I hope to see you there. I hope you'll equip some of these parts soon. I hope I get to equip all the ones in S rank, you get to equip all the ones in D rank, and then we get matched up in the bracket. That will be really fun for me, and I hope to see you there. Anyway, I'm out.